10, 9. Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Oh, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. We're a little all over the place this morning. I texted Aaron actually a couple minutes ago, asking if he was coming on. He didn't respond, but he showed up. I care more about him showing up. Episode number 52 on 4/21/21. That's an interesting fact. Aaron, how was your weekend? We're gonna recap some Oaklawn and what you thought, but how was your weekend overall? I know you had the in-laws in town.
Yeah, very good weekend and very good racing. I'm excited to recap what happened at Oaklawn. I think last weekend at Oaklawn was probably better than Arkansas Derby weekend even. So it's a race everybody is still talking about to this day. And if you've missed it, the apocalypse is happening evidently in Kentucky. There's a couple inches of snow and people are going crazy there. So yeah, it's wild. 10 days before the Derby and it's snowing. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Well, I think I'm not sure if it's good or bad. I wish I knew. I think it's more so just kind of summing up what times we're in, right? Like between 2020 and 2021, things have gotten better in 2021, but I'm not sure we're completely out of the woods yet, and I don't think we will be out of the woods anytime soon. I'll speak here for people in New York City or near the area. It seems like these COVID spots are still popping up from what I'm reading. So I don't know what the situation is. Aaron's name, Snow in Kentucky, kind of gives that away. For me, it was Tis a Magician. We're not going to recap Santa Anita, but shout out to him. More so shout out to Magic, who's an owner of Tis a Magician. I don't know what percentage he is a part of my racehorse. It's not my business, nor do I really care. But I just want to give him a shout out for a win in the Tokyo City Cup Stakes Grade 3 this past weekend. He had run in the Tokyo City Cup Stakes just not a few months prior, but last September as well, finishing second. So ran a much better speed figure here. So shout out to Tis a Magician. I believe it's his first stakes victory. So I hope Magic enjoyed that as well. I know he's got a lot going on, a baby on the way. So this was I shouldn't say a couple minutes, but maybe 90 seconds of some enjoyment before he goes back to stressing out. And we have a lot to get to. We're going to recap Oaklawn. We're going to do 3 races, only 2 stakes races, but I want to go over the welder race with you. I think that was an allowance optional claiming, but there are a lot of horses that could make a case to be in a stakes field next time out, including welder, maybe at a smaller track. We'll get into that. We'll get into your newest Kentucky Derby top 20 rankings. I really want to talk about the last horse. We will, but as a hint, I'm not going to say who it is. It says pros none, cons many. So we'll get to that. It is updated, so if you guys want to follow along with us, I will post it up here, but you guys can follow along as well. And then we're going to head to Keeneland, where they've also been taking in some snow, what I like to call white weather. Not clear weather, white weather. So they will be off the turf, and we'll kind of get into that. Aaron probably has a lot of win bets, and I have a very, very, very short pick 4 ticket. So let's get right into it here. We're going to head to Oaklawn Park, and we will recap Saturday afternoon, race 9. For the record, I did not watch any of these races live, except for the last one that we're going to go over because I was in Atlantic City. It was a lot of fun. The wallet took a hit, but that's to kind of be expected. Aaron, I'm going to throw it to you now. Silver State goes on to win and kind of went away from the field. It says about a half a length, but if you gave this a little bit longer, he probably would have won by a good amount. So now he's a winner of 5 straight, and I'll be the first to admit, we'll let you talk about the race, but in my book, he's kind of getting into that upper echelon of older horses, maybe. And it'll be interesting to see where he pops up. So what were your initial thoughts of him winning, or maybe some of the others in the field? And maybe does he get to that upper echelon of older horses as we progress in 2021?
Yeah, great training job by Steve Asmussen. We see him do this with older horses a lot. They'll just kind of blossom as they get older and they mature. And he's done a great job. Gunrunner comes to mind, as one of those horses that as a 3-year-old he was pretty good, and then 4-year-old, he was fantastic. And Silver State's kind of done the same thing. He doesn't have that Gunrunner type of talent, but he just has a nose for a wire right now. 5 straight victories. 3 of them coming in the Oaklawn Stake Series for older horses. And he just gutted this one out. I thought Ricardo did a really good job to save all the ground on the rail. I really liked the ride. And then when it was time to get him clear, he got him clear immediately. He just tipped him over to the outside and got him, in the clear and wide, but still he wasn't, he didn't have any problems. Where Fearless, the horse finished second, was kind of stuck along the inside, never could get much going. And then when he did, he kind of made a little bit of a move. But yeah, Silver State, this was a big win pick for me. So I obviously enjoyed this one a lot. We almost got 5-1. We got 9-2 on him. That was an incredible price. So I was thrilled with him. Is he an upper echelon? I mean, as of right now, he's sure, but there's a little ways to go. There's going to be tougher fields than this. I think this field was good, not great.
That's fair. And I guess I'm just going off of the 5 wins in a row, which didn't come against a lot. I want to go into a Silver State conversation before we talk about a few other horses. Silver State, I believe, he's in the top 20 of Steve Asmussen's. When you go to Equibase, and you guys can do this on your own, I'm not going to share it, but I'm just looking at some numbers here. He's got a strong case that he's going to finish top 10 in terms of career earnings. And to Aaron's point, you have Gunrunner, Curlin, Midnight Bizu, Untappable, Matoli. That's the top 5. And Matoli is one of my favorite horses. How do you not like Matoli? We always kind of think of, right, Aaron, more a sprinter type for Asmussen. And we've always thought that, not that, for example, not that Chad Brown can't get a Triple Crown contender, but like when you think of him, you think of turf. And when you think of Bob Baffert,
I totally disagree with what you're saying 100%. I do not think of Steve Asmussen as a sprint trainer at all, not even in the least bit.
When I think of his best horses outside of Gunrunner and Curlin, I think that would be for anyone. I think when you have a horse like that, 2 horses like that, it's going to cloud the picture. I always thought Steve Asmussen was best when he had horses sprinting. Now, that's not to say he's not good at everything else. And I think he's one of the best trainers. And we disagree there. That's fine.
Big time.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, he obviously has had Rachel Alexandra, Miss Aurelia, does a great job with all types of runners. I just think when I think of him, I think of sprinter. But I also think he's one of the most versatile trainers as well. If I had a trainer for any sort of horse, he is at the top of the list, because I do believe he really – Dennis says I disagree, Rachel Alexandra. And I just said that. If you have a Gunrunner and a Curlin, I think anyone with those 2 are going to have it. Like, Gunrunner's one of the best horses this country has ever had. So I'm not saying that he can't do it. But I think the best thing about Steve Asmussen, and we've talked about this all the time, he'll run anywhere. I think that's one of the best things about him. He will run at Remington Park. He will run at Lone Star. He'll run at Sam Houston. Most trainers aren't going to do that. I think that's one of the best things. You go to any track in the country, there's a realistic chance you see Steve Asmussen somewhere on the program, which I think is cool, whether it's owning or training. He obviously trains his horses that he owns. But I think that's one of the coolest things about him. And it might be a $5,000 claimer. But Silver State, but when this whole thing is done, and this is where I was getting at, he's got a shot to finish top 10 career earnings. Again, it's a distant from Gunrunner and Curlin, and that's fine. But he will finish top 10, assuming he could stay. He doesn't even have to run, I don't think, after this year. If he just continues his form, he should finish top 10. So that would be cool, because Steve Asmussen, again, is one of the best trainers of all time right now. If he just stopped right now, he'd be one of the best trainers of all time. Obviously, he doesn't plan on doing so. And the fact that he might get to 10,000 wins. He's, I think, at 9,300, so I think that's cool as well. And Silver State is one of the better horses in his barn, just going at the moment. Are there any horses you want to talk about out of this race that maybe you weren't in love with, or you didn't love their performances, or maybe you'd want them out next time, depending on the field?
I think Fearless is a horse that could get better off of that effort. I think this is a horse that he's always kind of had ability and a little bit of hype around him, and he hasn't really lived up to it. He's kind of had some injury issues. If they can keep him going, I think he's going to be a pretty good horse. Express Train certainly looked like the horse, in the paddock and in the post parade. I mean, he was just a monster of a looker, but he really doesn't have any excuse here. If he was good enough, he could have won this race. He just wasn't. And the Dennis's question, are we done with Owendale? I mean, yeah, you have to be. I think if you backed him here, you had to have your head examined a little bit. And he ran the race that he usually runs, where he ranges up and it's like, he's going to win. And he just hangs. I mean, he's just that kind of horse. I don't think you can back him unless you get him in an ungraded stakes. And the biggest problem with Owendale is because of, that resume that has good races on it, I would say, and solid races. And because of his trainer, you're never going to get a great price on him. So he is just one of those horses that's always going to be really frustrating.
Yeah, so I was completely against what you said until you said ungraded stakes. That, I think, is the key phrase, because if we're going through his past performances before this race, which was a grade 2, and it might have not been the strongest grade 2, but it is what it is. Then he ran the New Orleans, the Razorback, the Clark, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, which he actually wasn't all that bad in, if you want to examine that one. The Pimlico Special, which is grade 3, the Alashiba, the Stephen Foster, and then the most recent one was the Blaine Stakes. He won that in a non-graded. So I'm happy you added the non-graded, because I'm probably done with him unless he drops into a non-graded. Mm-hmm. So the answer to Dennis's question is, it depends. I don't think the answer is yes, unless you're talking graded. Ungraded, I'll be more than happy to take him unless there's a horse that is a true graded stakes winner that's starting a debut, that's coming off a layoff, and they want to start him at a spot that's more reasonable. And we've seen that all the time. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but if you have a true grade 1 or grade 2 winner on your hands, but they haven't run in 6 months, or they're coming off an injury, or they're starting a campaign, that's different. But if you just take a normal, let's say, Saratoga field, I don't know, I'm making up the track, Churchill Downs, I don't know, I'm making it up. Ungraded, I want him. So I think it really depends on the field. And that's why I was completely against what Aaron said until I'm happy he hit that ungraded point. I think that's really important. Mm-hmm. For me, I was really, really disappointed in Warriors Charge. I thought I was going to get a decent price. So I was right there. I think 6.5 to 1 was fair. I don't think anything lower would have been unfair. And he got the lead. I was a little upset, and we'll scroll down and look at the fractions. I was a little upset that he hung that bad. The first quarter, it must have been the first quarter, because the first quarter, 22-3, is extremely, extremely quick. But then there was a big slowdown. And I have to be honest, I don't know if Elvin Gonzalez did this horse a disservice by putting him to a 22-3, or did a great job to rein it back and have him go 24-1. Maybe it's a combination of both. Because if you look at it, Aaron, if you look at it on its face, 47 and flat isn't all that fast. It's moderate. It's slightly quick. But when you really break it down, the way you get to 47, again, like 8 plus 2 is 10, but 5 plus 5 is also 10. And I don't know if Elvin Gonzalez gave him a poor ride or a great ride to even slow it down that much. Did you have any thoughts on that? We know Elvin Gonzalez is not Ricardo. He's not Irad. He's not Juan Hernandez. He's not Giroux. Do you think that had a major effect on his performance, or he just wasn't going to be good enough regardless?
I'm really close with the owners of Warriors Charge, and so I have the benefit of knowing a lot about that horse and have for a long time. His only chance to win races is to get out to the lead. He just does not like to pass horses. As a matter of fact, the owner said, hey, we passed a horse for the first time ever 2 races back in that allowance race. So it was one of those deals. They had to send him. Did he have to go that fast in the first quarter? No. I agree with you there, but with that horse, you have to send. That's just what has to happen. I get what you're saying. I'm a huge Warriors Charge fan. Obviously, I would have liked to have seen, consistent fractions, not really fast, then really slow. I'm with you, but sometimes that isn't how it worked out. I think with him, the biggest problem, he's kind of lost a step. I think you look at it's they were kind of saying, well, it's been a while. It's off a layoff. He wasn't really running well before they kind of gave him that break. I just think he's kind of lost a step.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Last year, he won the Razorback, then finished to by my standards in the Oaklawn handicap. And Aaron, you know better than me. By my standards, I think, like I said, at this point, by my standards was the best older horse in the country at this very moment. I'm not saying it lasted, but at this moment, because there weren't many tracks going on, so you didn't really know. By my standards was the best horse. So, right, he's not the same horse that he was last year, and that's fine. And we'll talk about a few other horses as well as we move on to a non-graded stakes race. This is the first stakes race I've ever recapped on the Rocket Hour. And the reason we want to do that is because we have a good friend of ours, Welder. I should say good friend of ours, good friend of Aaron's. He knows his horse probably as good as anyone outside of the connections. I would be willing to – the connections, it's not his fault. He's not part of the connection. But outside of that, and the trainer, I'll put the trainer in that group and maybe the jockeys as well. Aaron knows better. He was pretty disappointing, and I called Aaron on Monday because I didn't get a chance to watch, and I kind of asked him what he thought, and he kind of just said, you know what, he ran into a group that was just better, and this is, I'm going to throw it now to him. So Aaron, kind of share what you shared with me on Saturday, because I didn't get a chance to watch live. I just watched the replay. He didn't go off as the favorite, but let's be realistic. They both were like 3-2. So him and Seven Nation Army. And Seven Nation Army was much better. So what were your thoughts on the race? And as a whole, maybe what would you do with Welder next? Would you go maybe back to a smaller track, or maybe what would your plan be in a perfect world? Obviously, you're not the connections, but if you were part of the connections or in a perfect world, what would you do?
Yeah, he had a lot going against him from the standpoint of his first race of the season. He usually doesn't run just his best first out, so that was a part of the problem. Another big part was I just thought Seven Nation Army, pretty darn good horse, and I didn't know if Welder was quite as good. He didn't run horrible. It definitely was disappointing, though. I think next out he'll show a lot of improvement, and I think he'll go back to Will Rogers and he'll get back amongst his friends and win that thing. I feel like the other thing you got to think with him, this is a horse that he's getting older. There's going to be a time where he slows down, and we may see it because he kind of got the trip that you would have wanted him to get. And he really wasn't blazing either. He just kind of gave it up. So you get him back to Will Rogers and you give him another shot against that kind of company. I'm a bit worried that he might start slowing down a little bit. I mean, this is a horse, I think, I can't remember. I think this is his 6th year racing. So it's definitely disheartening to see that, because you kind of thought he was going to win when he was setting those fractions, and he just kind of gave it up.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. At some point, horses just stop running, or if they don't stop running, they just get dramatically slower, which is almost the same thing as stopping running. We're not talking about stopping as in like literally they're on the track and they stop. That's not what we're talking about. They're trained to go as fast as they can. They're athletes. They're equine athletes. But to Aaron's point, like this horse has been going for so many years. I think this was his 39th start, I believe. And at some point, it's what it's like. I equate it to. It's like a pitcher. Yes, a pitcher might have pitched for 10 years, but think about all those side sessions that he's thrown, and think about, or she, whatever. Think about all of the training workouts that they've had in the offseason. Like, to keep a horse in training that long is not only an incredible job by the connections and the trainers and the jockeys and the morning riders, exercise riders, I should say, X, Y, and Z, but at some point they just, without telling you, because they're horses, I'm kind of done. And if he stopped today, it would be a fantastic career, especially for if you're a fan in the Midwest. I know this is probably one of Aaron's favorite horses of all time. Not because of the competition he faced, but just to know that you were going to get a quality effort every time. And he is $1 million winner. I think you and Jared talked about that on the pod last year on Blinkers Off, I believe, right? You guys. And it kind of stinks that he doesn't have any Oaklawn success. It's limited, but it would have been really nice for him to kind of get that national exposure. And if you are really into the sport, you do know who he is. But if you are just a casual fan, which it's fine if you are, you don't have to be in depth. You don't really know who he is because you don't follow Prairie Meadows and you don't follow, I'm throwing the tracks out there, like Remington and some of the smaller tracks, which is fine. But that's really where he made his business. And for me, I'd love to see Seven Nation Army in a stakes race. I don't know where that would be. I don't know. I'm guessing probably a Churchill somewhere, which really should play well because he is a speedball. And Churchill Downs is, to me, one of the most speed-favoring tracks in the country. So if he were to show up there, depending on the spot, I'd love it. I don't know what the race would be off the top of my head, so I'm not going to try to guess. I don't know what it is. But if he were to show up in a sprint, I think he would, in maybe a grade 3 sprint or a non-graded, I think he's got a strong shot and he's in form. Don't know if he would get IRAD again, but I would like to see him. I think that's the next logical step. I know this wasn't the best allowance optional claiming 40 field for $40,000, but he was pretty visually impressive. He had some trouble early on and really prevailed. Let's move on to the race of the weekend. Not only the race of the weekend, Aaron, I'd probably say the showdown of the year, at least on paper. Definitely on the filly mare older group side for sure. And I'd venture to say this was one of the more anticipated, not races, but showdowns. Horse versus horse. But we don't really get that. We kind of had an upset winner. This was the only race I watched live the entire weekend on a big screen TV. I'll let you go because you were much more in tune with Oaklawn, but what were your initial thoughts of all three? I'll be honest, we don't have to talk about get rid of what's LU, another Broad, and Chance to Shine. Those three we don't have to talk about. But the top three, what were your initial thoughts? Were you completely shocked? Were you just more so with Latruska's effort or Monomoy's effort and kind of Swiss Skydiver not really running that well? So what were your initial thoughts when you watched this on Saturday?
Yeah, this was one of the best races of the year for sure. This is a race that I'm telling you, people have been still talking to me about it and texting me about it. This was just fantastic. It didn't go at all like you thought it would for Latruska to win. I'll start with that because a lot of people are like, okay, we're going to try to upset this field. Latruska's lone speed. Latruska, I think if you put truth serum and people that pick Latruska, they thought she'd be like 3 ahead, and just so far ahead that the others couldn't get her, which really wasn't a bad angle. That was not the case at all. Like she was just a length or a half length ahead of the big stars. They were well within range. Latruska gets passed by the champion, Monomoy Girl. There's no way people that bet Latruska thought they were going to win this race at the top of the stretch. There's no chance. Even the most positive of Latruska bettors, there's no chance. You have to give this horse so much credit for getting headed, passed, and coming back to win. I mean, this was an amazing effort. And oh, by the way, Monomoy Girl earns the second highest buyer in her career. So it's not like Monomoy Girl ran poorly in this race. Latruska beat her, came back and beat her. This was amazing. This was a fantastic effort. They should be so proud of this horse, Latruska. Just an unbelievable effort to come back on a champion like Monomoy and beat her. This horse deserves all the credit in the world. It was just a tremendous performance. And by the way, they left Swiss Skydiver it just behind. Like that horse wasn't even in the race, but at the top of the stretch, it was really impressive.
Yeah, I think you summed it up 85% with what I was going to say. None of it was wrong. Just there are going to be a couple points I want to add on. The first thing is I was wrong on Swiss Skydiver. Yes, I'll be the first to admit it. That's what I try to pride myself on with the sport, because you see a lot of people coming on, oh, I was wrong because X, Y, and Z. No, I was wrong. That's fine. I was wrong.
Just didn't run. Yeah.
What? What'd you say?
She just didn't run. She didn't run.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit it. I don't want to say I hyped her up, because I think she, on paper, I thought wasn't that much worse than Monomoy. I don't think I had to hype her up. Her resume spoke for itself. I wasn't trying to hype up get rid of what ails you. She just didn't run. Okay, I was wrong. The other thing that I thought was interesting, yes, Monomoy got a higher buyer's speed figure. I agree. I'm not sure why Florent Giroux had this horse so far back. Early on, it says 3x7, 3x7, and then down, right? Am I reading that correctly?
I don't think that's accurate, but you are reading it correctly.
Okay, so
but that horse was never, ever 7 links back. Right, that chart is not accurate.
Okay, because I'm going off the chart, and I didn't think so either. I thought it was only a couple lengths.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's forget that chart for a minute, because I'm looking at it again, and I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. And then I was just changing my thought process, because I was like, I don't know. To be 7 lengths back, that probably would have put her last. I would assume.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to take that point out. This is a point that Dennis wants to talk about, and that's fine. If you want to see a difference between a good rider and a great rider, Drew never hit Monomoy until the final 50 yards, and it was a tap, IRAD using the whip. To say that Florent Giroux lost this race, which that's what this comment is implying, I think is extremely inaccurate. I'm going to give all the credit. If you want to give IRAD Ortiz credit, fine. I can hop on that boat. I want to give all the credit to the horse, because I don't think I've ever seen, to Aaron's point earlier, a horse like Monomoy Girl take the lead and then lose. Now, we've seen that at 40,000 claimers. We've seen that with maiden claimers. We've seen that with allowance state-bred horses even. I've never seen it, and Monomoy Girl will go down as one of the best mares of all time, filly or mare, whatever you want to say. I don't think I could remember a true champion, letting that happen. So this comment to me, and Aaron, I'll let you speak on it. Do you think that made that much of a difference? And then he does go on to say, if this is why, and the rule, he's talking about in California, Monomoy Girl wins the race. Do you subscribe to this thought, or do you think that Latruska just won this race no matter who was aboard, no matter what IRAD was doing?
So there's a really good comment right after by Jamie S. Monomoy doesn't like the whip at all. That's true. So honestly, Dennis, I think the optics of the race certainly says, wow, IRAD Ortiz was riding as hard as he could. Florent Giroux was just handwriting. He got lazy and he lost. That's not really what happened. They don't like to use the whip on Monomoy all that much. And about 50 yards from the wire, when he hit her with that whip, she kind of stopped for a second. So really, if he maybe just leaves the whip in hand and hand rides, it could have made a difference. Now, I could have not as well, but the whip didn't really do anything for her. If anything, it hurt her. So the optics of it definitely looks that way. And IRAD Ortiz does deserve credit for sure. But a lot of times the jockeys get too much credit and they get too much criticism, in these situations. Top of the stretch, turn it for home. Monomoy is 1 to 100 to win the race. And that's really, in my opinion, that's the jockey's main job. I don't really blame Florent Giroux. If you want to give credit to IRAD Ortiz, I'm not going to argue that, because it was a fantastic ride. But, the horse has to do most of the work. And that horse, Latruska, has to come back after being passed by a champion. She deserves the majority of the credit, not the jockeys.
You know what the sports analogy here is? You're a head coach, college football, pro football, high school football. You're first and goal at the 1. That's what Monomoy was. They were first and goal at the 1, and you need a touchdown. You can't score a touchdown in 4 attempts. It's not the head coach's fault. It's not Florent Giroux's fault. He did what he was supposed to. Yep. She's winning. I don't know if the whip was that big of a deal. I don't know her like that. If Aaron is saying that she doesn't like the whip, I trust him. I didn't notice that. Mind you, I was in a place where there were a lot of people screaming, so I didn't get to hear. So I'm letting you guys know that now in my commentary. And Jamie S. chimes in, so Monomoy doesn't like the whip at all. So if that's true, then great. Okay, so I could subscribe to this. Irad saying, Dennis saying that Irad won the race in the post-race interview with TVG. That's irrelevant to me. You know why that's irrelevant to me? Because Irad doesn't know. That's why Monomoy lost. Like, there's one thing to me if Irad goes on to win by 4 and he comes on and says she really responded to the whip. I think that was the difference. When you win by a nose, and that's what the chart says, and that's pretty accurate. You didn't know who won right away. You're telling me that's the difference in the whip or not? Maybe. But to go on and make a declarative statement, a definitive statement, I should say, I don't think that's accurate. I mean, that's like, Aaron, I went on a game-winning field goal. Well, Aaron, that play in the third quarter, where I got a first down on 4th and 1, that was probably the difference. Yeah, but you still had a quarter and a half to play. Mm-hmm. It's like Irad did everything right up to that. Maybe it was Irad being strong on the front end. I don't know. Maybe Latrusco just ran the race of her life. We have no idea. But to go on and say the whip was the reason, I think is inaccurate. I would probably say it's more because Monomoy just didn't. Maybe the whip did get to her. I don't know. I have to rewatch that part. I didn't notice it.
I will say this for Irad, why he's saying that makes sense because when he went left-handed, she did find more. She did. That's when she started to re-rally. So, there's definitely evidence to say that, if he hadn't went left-handed, maybe she doesn't catch up. So, I don't necessarily disagree. Was it the main difference in the race? I mean, no, but it was the main difference in that horse, I think, kind of re-rallying a bit. So, again, I'm not going to tell anybody, no, Irad didn't do a good job here. He did. He did fantastic. I just think the horse deserves a lot of the credit, and he deserved some, but not all of it, like you kind of saw on social media right after the race saying, oh, well, Irad just beat Florent Giroux. That's all that was about. I don't necessarily agree with that.
I completely agree. And did the whip help? I'm sure it did. But to go on TVG, I'm not questioning Dennis, but I'm saying for Irad to go on and say he won because of the whip, that's a pretty definitive statement when you're not entirely sure. Monomoy carrying 6 extra pounds. I hate saying that the weight is the reason a horse lost, but if you do look at it, carrying that weight for 8.5 furlongs, an extra 6 pounds, because she's a champion, I will say that made a difference. I almost never subscribe to that. That's just me. I don't subscribe to the weight. And this is why, Aaron. This is why. When you have a quarterback, and I'll throw it back to football, you have Tom Brady. You have Tom Brady for 4 quarters. You have to beat him for 4 quarters. It's not like she got the weight thrown on an extra 6, the final 60 yards or 100 yards. 60 was a stupid number. 100 yards. It's like you knew that going into the race, though. So that's why I don't subscribe to that. What do you say? To me, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but when it is a nose, I guess I have to factor that in.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you brought it up, Ken, because we were talking about so much other stuff, and that's the other factor in the race. 6 pounds, when it comes to a nose, I think it made a big difference. If Latrusco wins by, a length or 2, then you're like, well, what are you going to do? But when you're talking about narrow margins, everything makes a difference. And there's no doubt that could have been a big factor in it.
I do want to mention, and I don't want to take away from Monomoy, she doesn't really run races where she just zooms past. And what I mean by that is, like, she doesn't win races and does it so in style. Sometimes, and maybe that's the professionalism of her, where it's like, all right, I got it. I could sense it. Maybe I'm giving her too much credit. But I'm trying to, I don't know if there's a race where she's just miles and miles and miles ahead of the group. You'd have to go back to the Ashland a long, long time ago where she won by multiple lengths, more than 3. All the other races have won by 3. And again, maybe that's the professionalism. Jared says, how did Latruska win and screw us? You know what I'm willing to say here? I'm going to be that guy. I'd be more than okay if Latruska were to show up in another good grade 1 race to maybe play against her, because this has the feeling to me, and I could be wrong. I'll be more, that's just my initial reaction. She ran the best race of her life. Now, I'm not saying she can't replicate that, but if she were to face Monomoy Girl again, this is almost Aaron to me, where it's like, all right, maybe I can get a slightly better price on Monomoy now. If they were to face off again, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that was my thought on her.
I want to make one more point as you kind of segue into like future races now. I said after She Dares the Devil won the Azeri, you better watch out for this horse. And you not so much, but like the Magic Mac guys laughed and Jared was like, no, she's not up to this caliber. You better watch out for She Dares the Devil. She has a win over Swiss Skydiver. She has a win over Latruska. The first out of the season against a Latruska who had been running, She Dares the Devil holds this horse off in the stretch. You better watch out for She Dares the Devil. I'll say it again.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest She Dares the Devil fan, but I think this point, I mean, if we're talking about Latruska, you got to take that horse seriously.
Mm-hmm.
She Dares the Devil. That's what we're talking about. Jason chimes in, Latruska ran her best race ever. And that's what I'm saying, right? Where it's like, it's crazy. Before we, I'll get rid of this so we could go on to the Derby rankings real quick. But Aaron, it's like, and I'll pull that up now while we're finishing this this process here. She ran her best race ever and barely won. Now, I don't care what it takes to beat a champion. Yeah. Fair enough. You win. Whether it's by a nose or by 6, you won. That's why I made the case last year for Authentic. Yep. Even though he wasn't doing it impressively, he was winning races. And sometimes people forget about that. We saw that with like Prevalence this year. Oh, Prevalence won by 10. That horse was a piece of crap. Sometimes just because you win, right, Aaron? Just because sometimes you win visually, like on the track, oh, this horse has talent. Prime Factor couldn't beat this can of gum. Just because you do things visually doesn't mean you're that good. I'm not saying Latruska's not good, but just keep an eye on some of these other horses, and she's going to be a short price. Wherever she goes, she just beat the champion.
Yep.
And Monomoy Girl still is a champion, and she still is the champion. If she were to run again in the distaff this year and someone beats her, then she's no longer the champion. But in my book, she's still the champion. She was just beat on this day.
It would have been amazing if she would have ran like a normal, let's say, quote unquote, normal race. And Monomoy Girl would have beat her by like probably 2, And then we would be sitting here going, okay, Monomoy Girl, we wouldn't even have cared what Latruska had done. We would have said Monomoy Girl just beat Swiss Skydiver by 6.5 lengths. And we would be going insane. So,
right, because we wouldn't be talking about Latruska. You're right. We
wouldn't even care.
If Latruska loses, we talk more about how bad Swiss Skydiver was.
Yep.
So, and Monomoy Girl will be in the conversation regardless, unless she finished like 6th, which she's never finished outside the top 2. So we don't factor her finishing 6th. Let's move on to the newest edition of the Kentucky Derby rankings. You guys can check that out at racingdudes.com. You can see here it was updated this morning. How very kind of Aaron to update that right before we hopped on. Here is Rock Your World. I don't know who. I think that's Alberto Rispoli. Yes, his head is practically touching her mane. I'm not sure if he's praying or what he's doing. But Aaron, let's get to it. We're going to go over it again. We're going to go 1 through 5. I need you to pick a horse, something that's maybe new that we've learned over the last week or so. We could do it that way, or maybe there's something that you want to talk about. Maybe a horse isn't training well. By the way, folks, don't listen to people that say this horse is training well. Every horse is training well according to everyone you talk to. There's a horse probably running at Belmont in the maiden claiming. That horse is training great. Yeah, your horse is a maiden claimer. It sucks. Every horse that's going to be in this field, this horse is training great. Let's take a pause on that. You want to decide for yourself if they're training well, go to xbtv.com or watch a true video. So you're not going to hear me ever say the horse was training great leading up to the Derby. No one's ever going to say they're not. So, Aaron, let's get to it. We have Essential Quality. Again, Brad Cox, undefeated. But, again, you don't like the paddling motion, which I'm not going to get into. Basically, I believe it's one of the hind legs. And I think you said like John White had talked about that, or someone really big in the industry. So that could be an issue. Rock Your World. Only one start on the dirt, but it was great. And he comes in at number 2. Highest speed figure. I think the only one to hit 100, I believe, a buyer speed figure for 3-year-olds. Hot Rod Charlie, again, multiple losses on the resume, but he has class. He's got Doug O'Neill. He has a race going 1 3/16 miles. That is 9.5 furlongs on the dirt, if you don't know that. So he's got a lot there. Highly motivated, will not be running with his partner. And Chad Brown's going to keep Highly Motivated separate. And Highly Motivated will come here. I believe, Aaron, his stablemate, right, will head to the Preakness, right? Mm-hmm. So we're not going to talk about his stablemate. We'll talk about Highly Motivated if Aaron chooses to. And the final one is Known Agenda. Known Agenda, again, I can't believe I'm saying this, Todd Pletcher's best Kentucky Derby threat this year. He was probably like 10th when we were heading to Gulfstream at the beginning of the year, but Highly Motivated. Known Agenda is now Todd Pletcher's best. So is there anyone you want to talk about 1 through 5, maybe some new news that came out, or maybe saw a workout video that's gotten you a little bit encouraged, or maybe a workout video that said, I'm questioning this horse. Anything you want to talk about?
The next workout video that I watch will be the first. I don't give any care whatsoever about workouts. Okay, so this is a good time to do this, though, because I blocked out a whole day yesterday to study all 24 of the horses that are pointing for the Derby. So this is a great time to do this. I'll start with the news that people are up in arms about. Rock Your World. New rider is going to be Joel Rosario. Alberto Rispoli wins the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby, and Joel Rosario now aboard. So that has some people upset. Listen, after all the replays and all the analyzing I did of this race, Essential Quality is the one I want to talk about, because if I told you, Ricky, we have a Brad Cox trained horse ridden by Luis Saez, who is 5 for 5, was a champion at 2, won the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, won the Bluegrass Stakes, has won on a off track and a fast track, has won from right on the pace, stalking, and mid pack. What would you say?
I would be all over.
He checks every single box except the analytics. He has not ran a really fast race according to speed figures, but Essential Quality literally checks every other single box that you would want.
You know what the crazy thing is? This is why I don't like the sport, and it has nothing to do with you. Why does everyone have to take something away from a good horse? Mm-hmm. Every time. Every single time. You know what the crazy thing is, Aaron? And maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am on this point, but I'm going to bring it up. It's like we build horses up, and then the first misstep they take, we drop them all the way down. Him or her. Doesn't have to be a him. Mm-hmm. Like, people are banging on Essential Quality. To your point, what has he done wrong? Like, he checks every box. He can get the distance. He's got the class. He has a trainer, which to me is last when you're just talking about talent. I'm not saying winner of the Derby, just talent. The trainer could help elevate that, but Essential Quality, I think we agree, would be a great horse no matter who he's under, really. What's his problem? And I go on social media, and I'm not saying you're doing this. We agree here, I think. Everyone's like banging on this horse. Why? Yeah. Why? I don't get it. The object of horse racing is to win. This horse hasn't lost. Please tell me the reason. Maybe it's not as visually impressive. Maybe he struggles. Maybe he's got a paddling motion, which is fair. We're talking Kentucky Derby winners. But people are talking about this horse like he's a piece of crap. And they did the same thing with Authentic. Mind you, this is my second year really tracking this. So I have limited experience. I'll be the first to admit it. Aaron there's levels to this, as people say. Aaron is levels above me when it comes to this stuff. But come on, folks, stop, enough with this. Enough with banging an undefeated horse. Because if you're making Aaron, I'll sum it up before we move on to the next group. Because you're right. You're absolutely right. If we're banging on essential quality, then no one's winning this race. Then there should be no winner of this race because he comes into this one checking the most boxes, and he comes into this race with the best pedigree or some of the best pedigree, and he has a trainer and he's got everything. And to your point, Luis Saez is one of the more underrated riders in the country. So what is the issue?
Yeah.
What is the issue? I don't know what it is other than the paddling motion. And I don't disagree with that, but it's like if that's his only weakness, there's not a lot there because he seems to be winning on talent alone. To Aaron's point, he's winning on talent alone. Imagine he's able to correct this. So I don't know. I'm sick and tired of people banging on this horse when there's really no reason for it because all he does is win. And maybe it's not as visually impressive, but he beat a horse in Highly Motivated who comes in at Aaron's 4th spot. And maybe you disagree with the 4th spot, but he's still a top 5 horse. So I don't know. We'll leave that up for discussion. Aaron.
Highly Motivated is going to run a huge race in the Kentucky Derby. I'm pretty confident.
I agree. No, I agree. And even though he's not number 4, I don't know how you ranked it. Like, I don't know if he's the 4th best chance to win the Kentucky Derby. I don't know how you ranked it. Maybe you just said that's the 4th most talented horse. I don't know, nor do I care. He has to be in your top 5. He has to be. If he's not in your top 5, your rankings are wrong. So not you. I mean, people's rankings are wrong.
I agree. Yep.
If he's not in your top 5, even if you want to put him at 5, just to appease someone, fine. I can handle that. If he's not in your top 5, then I don't want your list is irrelevant to me. Aaron, let's go 6 through 10. Medina Spirit. We kind of know what he is, right? You're the one who kind of told me about that, a long time ago. We know what he is. On his best day, I think he could finish in the money. I truly believe that. I don't know if he's just quite talented enough. So he comes in at number 6. Midnight Bourbon, also really, really consistent. Maybe getting Mike Smith will help, but he's got multiple losses. Again, folks, this isn't the best field. You're going to find a lot of cons with these horses. Mandalon, another Louisiana horse, no show in the Louisiana Derby, but does have enough points. Should be on the front end, and we've seen time and time again, you need to be on the front end to win or to be competitive. We're going to see that. Superstock. I don't know what to make of that Arkansas Derby. Maybe Aaron could shed some light on that for us. Again, no concert tour. So we're going to see. I don't know what to make of Superstock, but he comes in at number 9, and he should off a big effort like that. And then Soup and Sandwich. Don't really know what to make of Soup and Sandwich either, but I just went through 6 through 10. Enough of me. It's up to Aaron now to let us know who he wants to talk about, who he's excited about. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I'll talk about number 8, Mandalon, because I think he's the real kind of problem in the race because this horse had a lot of hype. Brad Cox has said things like, I thought we were going to see something special in the Louisiana Derby. I thought we had him ready to go. He absolutely no-shows. Then he comes back to Churchill for training the last 2 or 3 weeks, and everybody's oohing and on about how good he looks. He's a big problem. And the other problem with him, he is rapidly becoming the wise guy horse, and that horse never runs very well. I am so on the fence about what to do with him, and I think at the end of the day, he's really hard to back after that performance in Louisiana. I don't think I can get over that, but he's definitely one that causes a problem. So I think as horses 6 through 10 go, he's definitely the one where it's like, damn, he could win, and we could be like, I knew something happened, and it was just a freak thing in Louisiana, or you could back him and he runs 15th, and you could say the same thing. I knew he wasn't that good, so he's a problem.
Yeah. Again, when you get to this group, you have a lot of cons, right? Especially in a weak field. Aaron, there have been times, I'm sure maybe you could share this off the top of your head. There have probably been times when you got 6 through 10 where you're like, they have a legitimate shot, or I can make a case. We're kind of at 6 through 10, really trying to make a strong case. Again, this is not my segment. This is Aaron's segment. Aaron, anything else you want to talk about this group before I move on to the next 5?
Yeah, not really. I think Medina Spirit and Midnight Bourbon are the 2 to look for as long shots to use because they have good running styles, and they both have never missed the board. So I think one of these 2 has got a shot. They're very similar to each other, Midnight Bourbon and Medina Spirit, right? They run the same race every time. There's no big improvements from them. but they don't really have to improve because they kind of just run similar figures that put them there. So I think one of these two are going to stick around and hit the board. I don't know. They're just very similar horses. They'll just kind of run, grind it out down the stretch. So look out for those two as kind of maybe underneath plays.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I don't think anyone in that group has a legitimate chance to win, but maybe you could find some value underneath. Let's go 11 through 15. 11, Caddo River has speed as well, good running style, as Aaron points out. But he's maybe not that fast, but at least he should be on the front end. Again, if you have a long shot, I'd much rather have a long shot that's going to be on the lead. At least you're going to get some excitement through the first half of the race. Yeah. Let's go number 12, Helium. This is the horse I've liked a long time. Aaron, do you remember where you ranked Helium last week, I should say?
I think he's been right around like 12, 13 the whole time. Okay. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think Helium, because he's done nothing wrong, granted, low buyer speed figure, I'll take a shot with it. I would take a shot with him, and I've been saying this for a long time, over a horse like Medina Spirit. We know Medina Spirit's not going to be essential quality. We kind of don't know what Helium is going to do. And I think the not knowing part provides you more value. It's like Aaron, it's like that, the kid who once in a while he gets an A on a test. He's usually a C student, but once in a while he really studies. Maybe Helium is that horse. We know Medina Spirit's going to get a BB+. We have Like the King. Maybe Like the King we don't really know about. He just won the Jeff Ruby Stakes, Aaron says, which is admirable. It's a little funny. I don't know, maybe him. Like, I think the 11 through 15 group I like a little bit more because we don't really know. Bourbonic's still improving, like just won the Wood Memorial. Maybe he's going to run another big effort. We have no idea. The dynamic one really should be the winner of the Wood. As far as I'm concerned, if you run that race again, dynamic one probably wins that race. Not 9 out of 10 times, 5 out of 10 times. If you just run the same, that everything goes according to plan. And if Bourbonic, Aaron, finishes second, no one's talking about him. But the fact that he won, people will talk about him. So nowhere else, we'll stop here. 11 through 15. It's kind of funny. I like this group a lot more than I do the 6 through 10 group because I don't really know. And when I don't really know, I find some value. So talk to me, Aaron, about some value, maybe someone that you like here.
Well, I think the big news is Caddo River yesterday committed to the Kentucky Derby. It was they were on the fence. It was 50-50. They said, no, we're going to run. So Caddo River, and why that's huge is that's another speed horse to throw in there. And when you think about essential quality and what he needs, I think more than anything, he has to worry about Rock Your World. So I think Caddo River's in here to say, okay, if Rock Your World's out there, if he gets a break, catches a flyer, gets to the lead, we want Caddo River right there to set it up for essential quality. So I kind of think that played into the fact to get Caddo River into the race, because I think essential quality is going to drop back in that 4th through 7th or 8th type of group and have that target and make that run on the turn there. So I think Caddo River's, into the race here is important. So I think that's the biggest news out of 11 through 15. No, I'm kind of the opposite of you. Like, I just can't see it. Helium, I was kind of interested in, but I don't like the train up to the Derby. Like the King coming out of that Jeff Ruby Stakes, don't really care for him. And then the 2 out of the Wood, I just don't think they're good enough to compete. So really, for me, the only big news from this group was the Caddo River aspect. Yeah,
and that's fine. And again, if some people just have in their minds they're never going to bet a short price to win, and that's fine. You can, if you want to if you want to bet your money like that, that's fine. I'm just looking at it as like Medina Spirit. What do you think he will be? I'm guessing like 12-1. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say.
I'll take the 30-1 on Helium. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying either one of them are going to win. I'm just saying if I'm going to place a bet, $5 bet, that's where I would go. But right. I'm not saying to play it that way. That's just what I would do. I think essential quality. I'm pretty convinced at this point, based on everything I've seen, that essential quality and highly motivated are the 2 horses I want. It'll be interesting to see what I think of Rock Your World, because I do have to do a little bit more deep diving with him. Let's go through the final 5 here. Now we're really taking shots. These are probably all horses that are probably going to be pretty long prices. St. Hood, I think the best thing about him is that he's got Todd Pletcher, to be brutally honest. And I don't think Aaron mentioned that here, but again, it doesn't really matter. This is Pletcher's what, Aaron? This would be like his third horse on paper, right? Or second on paper?
Yeah. I kind of think he has one, and then 2, 3, and 4 are kind of like, you can just draw him out of a hat, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. Bezos, I don't know. People have been talking about this horse. Like Aaron even mentions, this is going to be one of the wise guy horses. This horse looks like absolute crap to me. Dream Shake, I'm not really sure why he's in why he's here. Hidden Stash, pros none, cons many. Don't know why this horse is in here. Get Her Number. There's nothing positive I could say. So 16 through 20, try to make a legitimate case for any of these horses to finish in the top 5. I won't even say win candidates, finish in the top 5.
Yeah, it's bad, and it's going to get worse potentially because Dream Shake at 18, they're very skeptical. And breaking news this morning, Hosier was taken off the list. Baffert said, we're not going to run. Well, now this morning he said, we have him back on the list. Well, Hosier is sitting at number 21. That knocks King Fury down to 22. King Fury, if he got in the Derby, would have some interest underneath for me. Hosier at 21 has none. So if Dream Shake comes out, which I think is probably going to happen, Hosier is now in the field, and that's another horse that just has no shot to win. So when you look at this, I can't make a case for any of them. The only one that I could say, well, Obeso seems like a horse that is just going to drop way back and pass tired horses. So if there's enough tired horses in the stretch, maybe Obesos can get up and maybe hit the superfecta. But I'm with you. These horses here are bad. And like I said, it could get worse.
Yeah, that's not always good. Again, I don't really remember. I don't remember any of these horses. Like we've looked, I don't remember the last year's field off the top of my head. Last year's field was certainly better than this year's field. That's fair. And I don't think anyone would disagree. Boy, these horses 16 through 20 that Aaron put up there, granted, they're just his opinions. They're not like a true list. This is just what he thinks, and that's fine. That's an opinion. Boy, do these horses look like they have no shot. And that's kind of where we're at, which is a little disappointing. It would be like 2021, though, Aaron, for Sainthood to run a good race when this was probably one of Pletcher's worst 3-year-olds coming into Gulfstream. So maybe that's the case I'll make. The fact that nothing in 2021 went right for Pletcher on the Triple Crown Trail. Not one thing. If you I don't know what they are, and maybe we could do this one day. If you lined up a list of his top 10, I'm guessing Sainthood is around 9 or maybe 8. And Prime Factor was probably 1. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's the case I'll make. Aaron, we do need to get to Keeneland today. And folks, you could say, well, why'd you take so long? You're almost an hour in. You'll see why. We're going to go through this extremely, extremely quick here. We could spend, if we wanted to, 15 minutes on the whole thing. We'll start with race 5. It's a maiden special weight race for 3-year-olds. They're not going on the turf. They'll be running 1 mile on the dirt. And I have a laundry list of scratches for everyone. So bear with me while I read this off. If you don't want to listen to it, fine, but I'm going to read them off anyway. We have the 1, Lavish McTavish is out. The 4, Weather Prayer. The 8, Dance Samo. Good name, but you're not going to be running. 9, Find New Roads. The 10, February Sun. The 12, King of Miami. The 13, Commodore Perry. And the 14, Happy American. So, Aaron, with all that being said, you have, multiple win bets. Where are you going here to kick it off this race now on the dirt?
Yeah, I just went with 4 win bets here for these 4 races. They're short fields, and I just think that's the only really thing you can do. Here we are. We get the race off the turf, and you have the 14 Happy American who easily has the best dirt form, and he scratches. So I'm guessing he's not there. Maybe who knows where he's at. Maybe he didn't even ship to Keeneland. They just entered him and thought, well, it won't come off the turf. Well, surprise. I went with number 3, Snowhouse on top for Brad Cox, Florent Giroux aboard. Here's the deal. The horses that are left, there is no dirt form. So, I mean, the 7 is ran on the dirt, but very poorly. So you kind of had to look at pedigrees. Twirling Candy, that's a horse that usually they can run on anything out of a Bernardini mare. So it's like, yeah, I could see this horse taken to the dirt. Okay. Showed a little bit of talent on debut on the turf at Fairgrounds, finished 4th, beaten 4 3/4. I just also have to think Cox has some options for this horse. If he really thinks, we really need a turf race, he probably could have scratched. I think the horse has got, some reasons to improve second out. So I think number 3 Snowhouse is the one to beat here.
Yeah, that's who I put on top as well. The only other horse I used was Pregame. This horse ran against Prevalence and Stage Raider. Stage Raider at this point is probably the best horse to come out of that group. I know people were, and that the horse Ghazali, I don't know what the heck the horse's name is. That was one of the biggest purchase prices I've seen. So maybe that maiden special weight race comes back a little bit better. Now, granted, he lost by 24 lengths. I don't know what the heck that was. And he did run well on the turf. I just kind of want to use one more horse just to play it a little safe, but I'm with you. I think Snowhouse is the horse to use. I don't have anything else to add. The other thing here is Louis Saez should get a little aggressive with him.
Yep.
Should be on the lead, but I'm with you. The other horses don't have any really big dirt pedigree. And your point about the 14 running at the Fairgrounds, I'm guessing this horse just never made it.
Yep.
I'm guessing this horse is somewhere planted in New Orleans or that's not true. This horse is probably there based on his workouts. He was running at Keeneland, so he probably is there. I don't know. Maybe they're just waiting for another spot. That's also possible. I don't know how it works with MTOs. I have a feeling that they put him in for an MTO and kind of wait for another spot. And maybe that's what happened here. Who knows? Let's move on to race 6. Folks, we will not be going through some of these other horses that we don't like, because these, especially the ones off the turf. We'll talk about like the ones that are staying on, like the 6th race here, but we're not going to go through all these horses we don't like because we wouldn't have talked about them before. Let's go through this race. Maiden claiming 30,000 for 3-year-olds and upward, going 1 1/16 miles. So Aaron, we actually do get to keep a field of 8. Boy, aren't we lucky with this field? I thought it was important to go deeper here. Joel Rosario going to hop aboard for Grand Motion, and he usually only does this when it's turf runners, but he drops on a horse here. This is an Eclipse Thoroughbred, massive purchase price. Clearly hasn't lived up to the billing. It's weird by Curlin though. They kept wanting this horse on the turf. I would have thought that's what I thought was interesting. Now, granted, Grand Motion is a great turf trainer, and Aaron, you could correct me here, but when I think of Grand Motion, I sure as heck think of turf, being with his overseas connections. So maybe that's fair. So maybe he's just, his initial thought was turf. I don't know. I didn't think this horse was that bad on the dirt. None of his races were that bad. They were all made in special weights. Like Laurel, 42,800. That's about equivalent to a Belmont with a bigger purse. They just don't run for as much. So that's who I put on top. I also used a few others. I went 2, 3, 7, but you have a win bet on the 7 as well. So kind of add on to what I said maybe, or maybe why you picked this one over the other few that I used.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Three straight races they try to get on the turf. Then last time out they try to get on the synthetic. They really don't think this horse likes dirt at all. But you're right. I mean, his races aren't bad. Last time out on the synthetic, that horse looked unhappy the whole time. He never really picked up his feet. So yeah, I'm interested to see what he does here. I put him on top, $10 to win on him. I just kind of think Joel Rosario jumping aboard kind of tells me they think this horse is going to win. And this is a huge drop. I mean, I know Turfway is not like a great track, but still a maiden special weight there is not easy to win. So dropping down to the 30K claiming level makes sense. I think a 1/16 mile makes sense for this horse. I just thought he checked all the boxes. One horse that you didn't use, who I thought had a good shot, and I think I know why you didn't, because this horse looks like a career maiden, and that's the 6, Good Juju. This is a horse, if you're going to try to play some exotics here, I would use, though, because I think the horse is going to be out on the lead by himself. Now, he's been on the lead by himself before at this level and didn't really go all that fast and still got caught. So I get it, but this is definitely a horse that could finish second, third, and you need in a try, or an exacta. So Good Juju, the 6, is who I had in second.
I'm not. First of all, I put Good Juju 4th, so it's not like I thought this horse can't win. But I'm with you, right? This horse, you hit, Aaron, we see things a lot alike. You hit this right on the head. This looks like a career maiden to me. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't say that if you're dropping in for a first time. So if you're 0 for 48 against maiden special weights, which would never happen, eventually they'll drop you for a tag. But just say, play along here. 0 for 48 maiden special weight, you drop in for a tag. I'm okay with that. I might play you. You can't be already dropping in for a tag. I just don't, and I don't like the price, to be honest. Like, yeah. I don't want 3 to. Well, why would I want 3 to 1 on that horse as opposed to a Graham Motion with Joel Rosario, who's dropping in for a tag for the first time? That just doesn't make sense to me. The two Adara, I kind of used also, and here's why. Because to your point, the 6 gives up the lead so much. I said I want a closer, and so that's where I went there. I wanted to use that horse. That's the 3rd horse of the 3, and then I'm intrigued. I'm actually intrigued with the 3. The Brad Cox. It's a little play on words. I don't think he was that bad, and I do appreciate this. Aaron, how many times do we see a Matacat horse or I don't know, a Klarovich horse or whatever the case may be? You could find trainers, you could find connections anywhere, and they drop him in for a maiden special weight because of the purchase price. Mm-hmm. This horse dropped in for a tag right away, and I do appreciate that because I should have a better idea of what this horse is going to be if they belong there, and we know he's not that good. That's fine, okay, but I know what he is, and I think he can get better. And the fact he maintained his position going a mile, I think is incredibly important because it showed that he was still fighting. Because we've seen Aaron time and time again, these horses just stop, especially when they get tired on debut. I'm trying to go through a few of these. We're talking about Kentucky Derby horses. He says, I like the 8 at a price, but the race goes through the 6 and 7. Dennis is talking about the 8 is the journey. Do you have any interest? I don't.
No, it definitely seems like another career maiden to me, and just no early speed, none at all.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you're going to be a price, I don't mind you at a price at this level because we've seen crazier things happen. You better show some speed. Mm-hmm. If you can't do that, then without the connections on the 3, the horse would be 10 to 1. I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. And this is why, Dennis, this horse has 1 race on the card. And Aaron and I talk about this all the time. When you get to this level, sometimes not having races under your belt is a positive. Mm-hmm. When you look at the 2, fine, the 2 has 5. The 6 has 8. The 8 has 13. So maybe only having your 1 race will be the 2nd isn't that bad. And the 2, yeah, I don't love the 2, but I'm not going to sit here and just pound the 7 either. And mind you, I'm playing a $12 pick 4. So I don't mind spending an extra $4.
Right.
So that's the way I'm looking at it here, folks. Like, this is not going to pay much today. This is an example of where playing Aaron's way, you're going to make more money, but that's not what we're doing here. There are times where playing Aaron's way is scarier than playing my way because that's just the way what it is. Let's move on to the next race. And Aaron, finally, you get a bad day of races because usually it's me. Let's move on to the 7th. This is an allowance race for 3-year-old fillies going 1 1/8 miles on the turf. But we have a few scratches again. Shocker, shocker. This is going to be 1 mile and 1/8 on the main track. We'll give you some betting notices here. No super high five, no superfecta, no trifecta, and no show wagering. We do have 5 scratches as well. The 2, Reina del Sol. The 3, Girls on Fire. The 6, Viburnum. I think I said that right. The 7, Go Big Green. And the 8, American West. So, Aaron, I would have been better off with telling us the horses that are in. The horses that are in are the 1, Forever Boss. The 4, Miss Wicked. The 5, Il Malocchio. I think I said that. And the 9, Tis Splendid News. And Aaron, I got to be honest, the 9 looks better and better every time I look. Tis Splendid News, the main track only, Wesley Ward, Joel Rosario. Joel wasn't even scheduled to have a ride. Only the 2 MTOs. So what do we think here with Tis Splendid News? I'm sure that's who you use.
I mean, I don't know how this horse is going to lose. And you add on to what you just said, which was great. This horse is the lone speed in the race by 10 links on paper? None of these other horses have early speed. Tis Splendid News has plenty of it. I think it's going to look pretty similar to how it looked when this filly broke her maiden back at Keeneland on October 21st. Got the lead, kicked clear, won by 7. I can see a very similar thing happening here. I think this filly gets way in front. It's going to be really tough to run her down. I think she goes gate to wire. I don't think there's a lot to analyze here. And oh, by the way, she's got the best dirt form by 10 links? So I think Tis Splendid News all the way here.
You know what the crazy thing? Her 1 race over the turf wasn't half bad either.
Yeah, that's true.
On talent, she's good enough. I did take a shot with the 5, and here's why. She's been running against some crazy competition.
Yep.
So I just figured, look, maybe the 9 is the most likely winner, and I agree. But for a horse to drop in out of that much form, I figured I'd take a shot. And Kenny McPeak probably woke up this morning and saw the weather and said, you know what? I kind of like my filly a little bit better now because this race is on the dirt. So I just threw her in as a shot. I don't think it's not going to be that much of a long shot because they'll all take money except the 4. If the 4 is anything short of 10-1, the betting public has gotten this wrong. But the 5, can the 5 go off at 3-1, 7-2? Potentially, because you're right, Aaron. Tis Splendid News should be even money, probably a little shorter. I just figured the 5 has way too much class to not include here. So I threw her in as well, but I'm with you. The 9, everything about her looks good. She gets Joel Rosario. She has speed. Luckily, she doesn't have to face Olivia the Desert again, so she should be good to go. She should be the winner, and I think 4-5 should be fine. I got to keep saying it again. Robbie Alvarado. Dennis is talking about Robbie Alvarado. Robbie Alvarado. I guess you're not a fan on the 5. Yeah, but you know what? I'll take a shot anyway. I mean, again, the whole thing is $12. So, and Dennis, this is fair, right? He woke up and said, I can gallop this horse, get a second or third within an $81,000 purse. Fair enough, but he probably also thinks he's got a better shot to win now also. So yeah. I'll take a shot with that one. Let's go to the final race, maiden claiming 30,000 fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. No changes here, except the 10 watermark. You can make all the wagers you want. I'll start here. I thought this was the toughest race of the group. I put a Wesley Ward first timer by Tapiture in the 1, Fine Prospector on top. Aaron, you know better than me, and I call this a boutique meet. I've said it. If you're a month or shorter, you're a boutique. In my book, there's no definition of what it is. Wesley Ward just wants to win here. That's all he wants to do, and he's made it known that he wants to win. That's why he gets his 2-year-old fillies, boys, girls, no matter the distance. He has them primed for this, and I think dropping her in here, homebred for this French Connection group, don't know much about him. I'm going to take a shot because some of the other horses I like, well, first of all, I did like Watermark, who's out, but they all don't do much for me. So I'm going to take a shot here. I'm probably going to take a short price, but I only went too deep. The other one I used was Tesserina, the other Wesley Ward horse. So, thanks for taking that comment out. So that's where I went, but I'm going to put the 1, Fine Prospector on top. more so because I'm getting Joel Rosario. We've seen this time and time again. Wesley Ward puts 2 in. It's John Velasquez. It's Joel Rosario, and I tend to lean Joel. So that's where I went. I went with the 1 over the 11, but I am using both.
Yeah, I actually took off our banner there because I had made a typo. I had the 11 and I wanted the 1. So I have the 1 on top as well. So the last win wager is on the number 1 Fine Prospector. The reason why this field is complete garbage, I mean, it is trash and a half. And the 11, I'm with you. I think it's when you got to use. It's definitely the most established horse in a bad field. But you kind of have to look at it, and you made a good point about first-time starters. They don't, even though it's maiden claiming, doesn't really matter. They're just trying to pick up a win. And, oh, by the way, it's a homebred, so it's not like they're down a ton of money with this horse. And the main reason is it's like if this horse can run at all, she should win. Like, this field isn't much. And draws the rail, which rail for a first-time starter, that is a little scary. Hopefully she gets out of the gate. That's going to be the big key. But yeah, I'm with you. I like Fine Prospector on top. I just, this field is just, it's trash.
It's not good. It sure is not good. Well, that's what, that's what you get on a Wednesday. And with all the turf races coming off, it is what it is. Aaron and I will wrap up here. I'll go with mine first, and then he'll give us his win wagers. I went with 3-7, with 2-3-7, with 5-9, with 1-11. I did my math correctly. I've never played a pick 4 this short. I've only ever played it comes out to $24, and then you divide it by 2 for the 50 cents. You get 12. This is one of those where I usually, Aaron, try to just hammer it home. Mm-hmm. The problem is I can make a case for a couple others. So I said, I'll just play it short, try to make 2-1, maybe 3-1. Maybe I'll be lucky and get $36 if one thing breaks right, as opposed to just hammering it, because I do like what I would say, like the second tier horses a little bit. So I'm just going to play it short. If it comes back all favorites, then I'll just get 1-1 and I'll probably get $12 back. So give us your way of playing it, because you could make some legit money here the way you're playing it.
I mean, yeah, it's a card that's just kind of tough to get excited about. But yeah, I mean, I think wins and that kind of thing, maybe short exactas make the most sense on these 4 races. I went $10 to win on the 3 in race 5. Just hoping that horse has the best dirt pedigree. Race 6, $10 to win on the 7. Race 7, $10 to win on the 9. That horse, I think, looks like the most likely winner on the card. And then race 10, or race 8, I should say, I took the first-time starter, number 1 Fine Prospector, $10 to win on her.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, right, where sometimes the card is what it is. Mm-hmm. You got to shore up your opinions. You got to hammer your opinions. You got to press them, whatever phrase or term you like to use. And that's just what we have here. So Aaron will play his for $40, $10 each. I'll play mine for $12. And again, if we could make a little money, then great. Otherwise, we'll move on to tomorrow. We do have some news, though. Tomorrow, we will be at Belmont. Not literally, but we'll be heading to Belmont. Aaron asked me what we should do. I was kind of back and forth. I didn't really care. But because I was started through the Racing Dudes, through New York, through Belmont, through Aqueduct, through Saratoga, Aaron's like, you know what? Let's go. Let's go to Elmont. Maybe I'll try to get out there. I will be doing the show right here from my home, but maybe I can get out there in the afternoon for a little bit. So that's where we'll be tomorrow. Belmont Park, opening day at Belmont Park. It's always nice to see some of these summer tracks open again. I shouldn't say summer, spring tracks. We're in spring. So that's where we'll be. Aaron got the news. He told me the other day he will be heading to the Kentucky Derby this year, which is always great to have some representation. Unfortunately, I will not be there. Still have never been to one, so we'll keep that on the bucket list. We'll check that off at some point. Maybe next year. Hopefully we can check it off. But so that's great to hear on his end. Him and Jared will be going. So again, we'll have some Racing Dudes representation on site. So we'll get into the plan, but Aaron will be with us through the rest of this week and most of next week. I think just next Friday would be an issue, but he said Thursday we should be good. So we'll just do Belmont tomorrow and Friday, which is awesome. I'm excited to have that back. I do have to get a new background picture because I don't have one for Belmont yet, but I'll work on that after the show. Everyone, thank you guys for tuning in. I know we went a little long, but we had a lot of stuff to recap and one more edition of Kentucky Derby competition. We will have one more edition next Wednesday, I believe. Aaron, I'm sure will update us on the 28th or maybe the 27th or whatever he wants to do, but we will have another updated edition. I'm sure there'll be plenty of news coming out. So without further ado, we will see you guys tomorrow, 11 a.m., covering Belmont. I believe it's races 6 through 9 off the top of my head. Don't quote me, but I believe it's 6 through 9. So that's what we will be covering, and we will see you guys bright and early. Everyone take care. Stay safe. You're playing Keeneland today. Let us know what you're doing, what you're wagering on, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care, everyone.